in the realm of freedom, but in the limitation of the human life. Because if liberation or freedom were found in the liberation or within the liberation, I don't think it's necessary to try to find the liberation, because you're already right in the middle of liberation. Do you think so? So you are already, your life is limited by many conditions, many ways, many circumstances. That's why you want to have a liberation or freedom. So at any cost, you have to find it in the realm of limitation of the world, human life. In Buddhism, it is called jizai in Japanese. Literally, the self is in as it isness. Okay. Self is in as it isness. Means wherever you may be, you must settle yourself in the self. Okay. Do you understand this one? No way to escape. Anyway, you have to settle yourself in the self. This is jizai, jiu, freedom, in Buddhism. Okay? Because the self is in as it isness means that you look at human world because you exist. And simultaneously, the world look at you. Simultaneously, you cannot always look at the world ignoring the presence of the world you are looking at. Because world is looking at you simultaneously. Do you understand? If I look at you, you look at me simultaneously. So I cannot ignore your presence. So I have to accept constantly beyond my speculation, beyond my afflictive preferences. Anyway, I have to accept. And then I have to think of myself, how to live, how to be settled down, how to settle myself in the self, anyway. So in the Buddhism, there is one of the bodhisattvas named Avalokiteshvara. In Japanese, we say kanze-on. Kan means observation. Observation means very closely look at, very closely. Not objectively, anyway, kan means not only see with your six senses. Kan means observation, means regard, to regard. To regard means you should look at something very closely, means with your whole body and mind. Okay? Accept it and digest it. All right? That is observation. Do you understand? But usually we always look at something objectively at a distance. We always. That is dualism, we say. At that time, it's very difficult for us to warm communication between man and man, between man and woman, between man and nature. Excuse me. You cannot get it. If you don't have a warm communication between the man, human being, and nature, you can destroy nature very easily in order to get the better life, according to human egoistic sense. We don't take care of nature as it is. So, Kan means observation, Z means Z means word, On means the sound. So Kan Zeon Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is symbol of compassion. That Bodhisattva is always has listened to the sound of observation of the world, okay? Observing the world and receiving the word, digesting the word, okay? Do you understand? Digest. I use a digest means there is a food, and then you look at the food objectively and receive the food because that's yours. Okay? If you look at the word is yours. So word, look at you, means please receive the food and start to eat. And then if you start to eat, anyway, food disappears in front of you, and also form, shape of the food disappears, dissipated in the stomach. Completely disappear, and that time food becomes blood and energy. So food, where is the food? Food complete gone, but it's not gone. It's your energy. So it supports your life constantly. So this is called digest, I use, okay? Digestions. So if you look at the world, look at you, regardless of whether you understand it or not, you should understand this intercommunications simultaneously. So you should accept. And then next, observe. And then if you observe and digest, a little bit of difficult situation comes up because digest. It's really hard work. Really hard work. And then at that time, people very naturally come to limits of the phenomena, limits of human knowledge, which you cannot depend on. Very naturally. Because food gone, nothing to depend on. If you digest, if you accept the world and then by hard work and digest it, very naturally, you don't know where's the food. So very naturally that is limits of the phenomena. In other words, dead end. Dead end is not a good word. Anyway, limits. Okay, limits. You cannot go any more from that. Complete limits. Limits of phenomena, limits of human knowledge. You cannot depend on. And then at that time, you want to scream. You say, help. All right? Because nothing you can see through your six senses, because that's just energies. Where is the energies? Energies, your life just work, You should work. You should, every day, your life must be alive. That's it. Where is the energy? You don't know. So it's very, it makes you confused, because human knowledge you always try to get in order to depend on. That's why it's very difficult. And then when you see this limits of phenomena, limits of human knowledge, at that time there is a sound, human sound. from coming up from the bottom. Nothing to say. Please help. That is called sound. All right? Sound. When you observe human world, human being, through and through, very naturally sounds come up. That is not usual scream, really deep scream, so-called mourning. Mourning, you understand mourning? Mourning is nothing to say, no sound, no sound. If you hit the sin at the corner of the desk, okay, what do? You try to scream and you can't scream. It's really hard. And then you just touch it, hold it, your sins, just stop and hold the breath, that's it. You understand? This is called mourning. If you really suffer through and through, you really mourn. And when you see human world through and through, very naturally there is a sound comes up. That is called mourning. Right? It's a very deep scream. And then from that, practice of spiritual life start. And you can open your eyes. What human beings are, what the human worlds are. Okay? That is the first step. You can get into really deep human world. Okay? That's right. Even though you don't know what the religion is, you don't know what Buddhism is, I always mention, please do your best to live with true heart, wherever you may be. The very naturally, anyway, you can touch limits of phenomena. That's why, very naturally, you can understand something deep. So that is called kanzeon, observation of those sound, bodhisattva of sound of the observation of the world. All right? This is a symbol of compassion in Buddhism. Avalokiteshvara is very well known in Japan, in China, in Buddhism, in Tibet, Buddhist country. It is very well known. Everyone loves it because the statue is very beautiful, feminine shape, very soft and very kind feeling. You can see the Buddha statue in Japan as a national treasure. Very nice Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. So, anyway, the self is, as egolessness means you must be Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattvas, because regardless of whether you are conscious of it or not, the moment when you exist in this world, you already look at human world. The human world look at you. So you have to accept whole world anyway. So from this point, you cannot exist alone, wherever you may go. That means already your life is limited. Okay? By many beings, visibly, invisibly, anyway, your life is limited. It's not complete freedom. That is real situation, real reality. You exist every day, from day after day. That is a situation of your reality. And then you should find it, freedom, liberation. Okay? Psychologically, in Buddhism, at least we have 5 consciousnesses. Whatever you do, whatever you think, or even though you sleep, okay, or even though you faint, always there is at least 5 consciousness always working. That means first, tangibility. tangibility means touching. Touching means when you are born in this world, you touch the world. Okay? That is called tangibility, we say. Tangibility is just like, what would you say, the main important pillar of the house. If you take it out, whole house crashed. So that house, that pillar support whole house. Okay? That is your birth in this world. If you were born in this world, immediately you touch the world. That is just main pillar of the world. Okay? It's interesting. The next moment, another consciousness is feeling. Feeling is completely, totally accept. Feeling is basic nature of emotion and sensation, basic nature. Okay? Before you create the sensation or emotion, there is a very deep emotion there. Okay? That is called feeling. And by this feeling, you can educate music, a sense of music, sense of a poem, all the arts grows from this level of feeling. Okay? Because that feeling is very basic nature of your life, accepting whole things in pure sense, very pure sense, through communication, totally perfectly. Okay? So that is when you are born, the first consciousness alive, this is tangibility, next moment, feeling. So you are born, your birth is just like one pillar, and simultaneously you accept whole world. That is before your conscious works, all right? It's complete. Your intellectual sense works. Anyway, it's complete works like this. And next, perception. You understand this process. If you receive, accept whole world, and then next, perception start to work. Okay? Analyze, synthesize, okay? And then next, thinking. Thinking is what is a bird? If you hear the sound, what is the sound? That is the bulldozer, so you can say so. That is thinking. What is a God? What is liberation? We can think, all right? So, tangibility, feeling, and perception, and also thinking. Next, at the intention, will. Finally, you start to act, right? So through this process, the 5 consciousnesses, always in the moment, these 5 consciousness work, and then you can act, all right? So from this point, your life is very limited by this consciousness. You are now free. Already 5 consciousness alive, 5 consciousness, your life is limited by 5 consciousness, at least. You never be free. So, in Buddhism, that's why we try to find freedom, how to live every day. It's not a matter of discussion. Freedom, liberation is something you have to do every day. But on the other hand, you have to understand very deeply structure of the human world, because otherwise you cannot know what the meaning of liberation. So world is structured by 2 points. One is you are free, constantly free, basically free. No one interrupts you. Okay? Secondly, you are anyway, your life is flowing, streaming in a certain rhythm. Certain rhythm. That rhythm is called causation. Cause and the effect. Cause and the effect. So two things. That cause and the effect is your life means that your life is limited. All right? Because if you do something if you do something called A, excuse me, very naturally you will see A as a result. Okay? So that is causation. So your life is streaming in according to a certain rhythm of water. Okay? That is called causation. So on first point is you're completely free. Whatever you do, no one interrupts, but on the other hand, you are limited. So this is about a very contradictory situation. All right? And then question is, how do you live on the basis of idea of freedom or liberation? So there is a very good example, okay? The example is, one of the child story, tortoise and hare. You know that. That story, I am very familiar with that story. I love it. In this story, there is a very nice teaching for us. Okay? Finally, in the story, tortoise anyway won in the race. Okay? But intellectually, it's impossible for tortoise to win in the race with the rabbit hare. Do you understand? Pretty quick. But anyway, practically, he won. But in order to win, anyway, he continued to work without stopping in a moment. Means completely he is completely free from kind of a certain level, so-called tortoise compared with here. I am very stupid guy, I cannot win in this race, something like this. We always judgment in terms of a certain preconceptions. So intellectually, or in common sense, nobody believes the tortoise will win. But he actually did. That means he completely free from any category, coming from any criticism, any category, any preconceptions, coming from human common sense. And then all he had to do is just to walk step by step constantly. That's it. Freedom. He is completely free. No one interrupts. Even though you say, hey, you are stupid, even though you say so, Paul still great capability to walk, to participate in this race, whatever you see. Anyway, he did it. Actually, he did it. Actually, he win anyway. Do you understand this one? So, human beings always put the label first. If I look at myself, oh, I'm not intellectual. I'm stupid. I can't do it. You say very often say so like this. If you think and if you take care of, in that sense, it's very difficult to live in free, liberated way. So you suffered a lot, very naturally. So first of all, anyway, you should forget it. You should forget, and you are completely free. Anywhere you walk, just like a tortoise. Accept it. Well, I promise you, okay? Human capability, your capability is really freedom, all right? Just like a spring water gushing out from the ground. If you practice, if you constantly devote yourself to do something, one thing, you know, you can see the great capability, what you have never thought. Like if you put the water pipe into the ground, and the pipe, when the pipe touches the water line, immediately water coming up. Do you understand? This is human effort. If you make effort to live in peace and harmony, whatever happens, no matter what situation you may be, constantly do it, okay? And then finally you touch it. Then water coming up. That is human capability. Your nature of the human capability. I promise, okay? My capability is, actually, my capability is really tiny. But I constantly become just like a tortoise. So that's why I love a tortoise. I love a tortoise and a frog. Frog is very nice. Just sit down, you know. Watching the mountains. And then even though you pour the water, you know, the frog is just one blink. But still, he doesn't move. Always sit down. You understand? That's wonderful. So I like frogs and turtles and cows. So that's why he won. All right. Second, turtles continually make every possible effort to walk step by step, no matter what situation he may be. That's why he wins. Okay? But from this point, everyone does in that way. All right? Everyone does. Because everyone is free. If so, why is it we have to practice that then? You know? Why is it we have to do something special? So, this is second questions come up. Why we have to do meditations? So, the second, in order to win, turtles really make every possible effort to walk step by step without comparison. Without comparison. That is a quality of his effort. All right? That is really great quality. But usually you don't do it. You make an effort, simultaneously compare. Don't you? Compare, conflict, and then you become nervous. Well, if you want to compare and conflict with somebody for first prize, do it. Try. But it's not always the universal way to live. You know, if you have a great capability to win, you can do it. Just like a rabbit, you know, you can win. But I don't think reality is very complicated, always changing. So rabbit is not always a rabbit who can win. Right? So under certain situations, rabbit wants to sleep. That's human laziness, you know, very natural. That's why, without comparison, you just continue to walk. This is really quality of human effort, right? Because we are limited by many conditions, many peoples, natures, birds, disasters, and hungry ghosts, and also starvations, and wars and fightings and many things. So immediately you cannot keep going. Immediately you stop and criticize, compare. That's things always happens. I don't mean you should ignore result or reward, okay? Because if you act something, if you do something, result come up naturally before you expect, even though you don't expect. Anyway, the reward comes. So important point is how you should do, how you should act in appropriate way in wholeheartedness. Okay? That's whole point you have to do. Do you understand that one? And then result come. If you want to take a trip, okay, what do? Okay? Do you always looking for the scenery in Alaska, but your body is in Minneapolis, looking always at the scenery of the Alaska, without moving, staying in Minneapolis. Wonderful, wonderful. Reading the, explanation of the scenery of Alaska, it's ridiculous. If you want to see the scenery, anyway, you have to start to move toward, anyway, step by step, anyway, just like a tortoise. And then you can see the scenery, don't you? Do you understand this very clear? And then most people really want to grasp this scenery and compare with other things. Very complicated. That is simultaneously, that comparison and clinging make your life stop. So make your trip stop. So very naturally, your life doesn't work. But actually, life is going. Everything is moving, so there is a very contradictory situation comes up, you have to face this contradictory situation. That's why you become nervous. Nervous breakdown. Okay? You become crazy. So all important point, basic practice is, anyway, if you want to see the scenery, anyway, you should know what kind of scenery there. What course you have to take. If you want to take a trip, anyway, you have to know. But if you know that, anyway, first important point is start to move. Completely beyond your capability, I can do it, I cannot do it, anyway. Because already after careful consideration, you already decide. If you decide, let's do it. But still, you cannot depend on anything because situation is changing. That's why there is only one thing that you can depend, that is your body and mind. That's it. But strictly speaking, body and mind is also very shaky. So still, there is nothing, completely nothing to depend on. Always you have to look at the circumstances, watch the circumstances, watch your body and mind. And then, step by step, walk. That's pretty hard work. But strictly speaking, it's simple. Anyway, simple. Let's take one step. Next month, let's take one step. If you see the scenery, wonderful, thanks. You move, That is a quality of human effort. What you have to do, this kind of effort in the realm of limitation of your life. Okay? That is so-called liberation, freedom. Freedom and liberation is not something you can get from somebody by having a strike in the city hall, in front of the city hall. I want to freedom. Maybe you can get, but not real freedom. So real freedom is, anyway, you have to find it. within your life every day, and then live. You have to live this liberation in your everyday life. Okay? For that, you need really deep understanding of human world, and then next, how to make this understanding of human world alive in everyday life, completely beyond speculation or matter of discussions. Every day, anyway, you have to do it. So, peace, right now, right here, you must be liberated. Right now, right here, you must be peaceful. That is called peace. You know? If you sit down in peace, this is called peace. Peace means your body and mind must be peaceful. Simultaneously, whole world peaceful. But your intellectual sense already looking around immediately and then says, hey, it's not world, it's not peace. But that is intellectual sense. But actually, if I sit here in peace in harmony, whole world become peace, because I can create peaceful world. So that's why even the one person, two person follow me, who want to peace. You understand? That is called, it's very kind of a slow practice. It's just like a tortoise. And that kind of practice, like a tortoise, is to light the candle one by one. Okay? One by one. The around your life, don't think big stuff. Anyway, do something little thing. Light the candle around your life. If one person around you, why don't you live in peace in harmony with that person? That is light the candle. If he doesn't, but don't fight. Still, you have to be keep lightening. Okay, your candle. If a candle, the light of a candle is almost about to extinguish, blow off, well, you try to light the candle again. Okay? Constantly, at the 100,000 million times, you light again and again. And then people will really respect you and follow you. And learn what peace is from your life. Okay? This is called liberation in Buddhism. Okay. Do you have a question? Some argument?
I have arguments. My argument is sometimes like a beautiful story like you told, like tortoise, and also the Sufis have a lot of beautiful stories. Sufis, like for example, Sufis, they have a lot of teaching stories, and also this story, there never was a race. I don't think so. What was happening between these two, hare and this tortoise? But somebody made up the story in order to make a point. The Sufis, they create beautiful stories, and a lot of non-Sufis believe the story actually happened. But most of those stories are created by somebody intelligent who to make a point, and he created the story. Actually, there was nothing was happening. But there wasn't any races between these two.
Why, that's all right. Even though it's not some real things happened in the past, but if you can make a little beautiful stories, it's wonderful. Even the intellectual or that story comes from human life anyway. Not only intellectually. You cannot make stories intellectually alone. You have to make stories from your whole life anyway, body and mind. And then if that story is really helpful for the peoples in the future generation, it's wonderful. Why don't you accept it? Don't you think so?
On the other hand, I can create the wonderful imaginations. Most of the like for instance these days, a lot of writers they do fictions. And they write a lot of fictions, which will never happen, and which
maybe happens. You can say never happens, but maybe happens because already in the thinking, even in the Buddhism, this is a very interesting point. In the Buddhism, even though in your sense, in your head, you think something, you think another planet which you have never gone, okay, visit. That, nevertheless, if you can think another planet and the beings living in that planet, it exists. We say it exists. It is a being, part of the all sentient beings. It's interesting. Anyway, so all sentient being means not only the trees, birds, it's the visibly, invisibly. Another planet, space, and tiny creature, micro creature, many creatures in this world all exist. So devil, including devil, include devil and monsters, everything exists. So whatever you think, that all what you can think exists. All right? That's interesting. I'm sorry. Yeah, please, you understood.
I understood mostly. There will be subjectively I'm saying is I can create the story in my mind. But you're saying if I create in my mind, it also exists. Although it may not be happen objectively or maybe real, it may not happen. But if if that story exists in my head, and then it exists, it exists in my head.
Yes.
So it's not important whether that story happened or not, but that happened in my head, so it happened. So it exists. That's the point.
It exists. Yes. For instance, if you in your daily life, if you think something, I want to do that thing. If you think always, something happens. Have you ever experienced? I always experience. So even though I don't know how can I get, but I always think I can get it. I can get it. So every day I can get it. It is not greedy. Just settle down myself. I settle myself in the self. Just that's it. Pretty interesting. Then what the world what you are thinking comes to be true. Not all the time, but yes, it is. So the song and the impossible
dream.
Impossible dream. Yes, everything, nothing impossible. Everything is possible dream. I believe it.
Well, I had some difficulty with stories, as you related that they weren't really true. When I was, say about 10 years ago, I was a bit younger, I would be working with a client. I do design work. And if I found that there were tremendous objections or insecurities, if I felt the woman was insecure about what I was trying to present, I would think of a story, which I felt very guilty about because I thought I was lying, but you made me feel very much better. And so I would think of an illustration of what I would say to her. Well, I had a client, or I have a client. I usually said I have a client because I thought that was much less of a lie because I would think in my head it was her. And then I would illustrate this, I would make something up so that she could perhaps understand better. So do you think that was a lie or a good story?
Pretty good story.
Good.
Pretty good story.
Well, I feel much better now.
If you say that one must guard one's thoughts as far as...
What's the point?
If you say that one must watch one's thoughts in the sense of things can come true, are you also advising us to guard the thoughts? If anything you think can come true, then you should be careful about what you think.
Not always. Okay?
Not always.
Not always. But when you think, in the Buddhism, what you think is already something existing. Okay? So already something comes to true. Even though you cannot see through your six senses. What you think exists means something exists already. All right? So that is we call all sentient beings. So it already exists. Do you understand? That's why sometimes it comes to be true. But sometimes it doesn't come to be true because everything is changing constantly. So you never know, you never predict. This is, this will comes to be true, surely you cannot say so, you know. But what you think is something, what you think is a fact that something exists anyway. Do you understand that one? What you think is already something exists. So it's already real.
Dreaming can be the beginning of reality.
Sure. Mm-hmm. But you cannot always depend on that nothing impossible. Nothing impossible. You cannot depend on idea of nothing, no impossibility. You cannot say. You cannot depend on idea of, because you have to make something always possible, okay, every day, as best as you can. For this, situation is very complicated. So it's very difficult anyway. But nevertheless, intellectually it's very difficult, but intentionally, very deep mind, if you just moving, you can create certain circumstances, so-called conditions. You can make conditions, okay, and then come up. For instance, in the Minneapolis, our group is developing very slow. But it's very interesting because the people ask me, what do you want? So I want to have a monastery. So we bought the country. But I decided that at least for 10 years, I don't want to use that country land because we don't have the money. I couldn't dream, I couldn't imagine to build some building over there because we didn't have the money. But I want to buy that one, so we bought it. And then I decided I don't want to do anything for 10 years. But gradually, I cannot stop my dream. So everyone come and start to move. I don't want to do anything for 10 years, but people can wait. So 5 years, then 50 years, they start to move. And we grow. Building, now 4 buildings, but it's not complete building, but we built already. So it's very interesting if you think and if you always walk toward that, and somebody start to do that and help. So if you have this kind of intention and will very deeply, not greedy, okay? The very natural people help people create a certain circumstance. And that's wonderful, you know. Just to create a circumstance. And then the people come, help these circumstances too. So people come. Okay, anything else?
When I want to do something, I feel like I point my mind in that direction. I don't have to think about it all the time, but I just set my mind that I'm going to go to that place or I'm going to do something. And then I always had, when I was very little, I had a vision of this beautiful fairy that came and waved a magic wand on me. So I say, I just believe in the good fairy, and she takes care of me. And I hitchhiked all over and everything, and I just trust in the good fairy is going to take care of me, and she always does. And when Lama Rinchen was coming here in 1979, and I didn't have any money to pay the rent, and he was coming in the same time as the pleasure fair, and either I could go and sell my artwork at the pleasure fair to pay the rent, or I could go to the meditation workshop. I wanted to go to the meditation workshop. And one day, Paulger told me, Tara, you know, it's like Kuan Yin, and one day I said, Tara, do something! And 4 days later, I got a check in the mail for $1,000. From my godparents, you know, and it was just, I paid the rent and everything else, and I went to the meditation workshop. You just have to really, really, you know, believe something very hard.
But if you always take care of human life, always like this, you become kind of, what to say, a little bit over-infatuated. Do you understand? Over-infatuated. So that's why religions always sneak you, believe it, believe it, believe it. Naturally you can believe, even though you don't believe. So unconscious advertisement is very strong for you. To you and the person, to yourself and to others. Pretty easy. And from this point, human beings are pretty weak.
How should one deal with, she was talking about being careful what your thoughts are, but when you have thoughts, either meditation or dreams, or just thoughts during the day that are disturbing, and you want to push them away, you don't want to think that. You add mental affliction to the thoughts. How do you deal with thoughts that are disturbing or unpleasant?
Well, you try to push away, that is already mental affliction. So, then more or less, we create mental affliction. That makes you more complicated. That's why as soon as possible, you shouldn't do it. You stop it. And then probably you must be stand up there straight away, pat your head, goodbye, and walk like a tortoise. That's very important.
Certainly perseverance is a very important quality towards freedom, but it seems to me that there's a need for direction and also the help that's needed to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does one find this?
Find the direction.
The direction and the help that's needed.
How do you get?
Yes.
Well, for this, I think you can get the direction and the help if you see the destination in 10 years later. You know, in 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, you can see direction, and also in order to move toward that direction, you can get help from the people. But Buddhism, in the Buddhism, we have to have a direction, huge direction. So not only 10 years direction, not only 20 years direction. Well, you don't believe, but life after life. Or philosophically speaking, not philosophically, maybe philosophically speaking, we say our direction is empty. Our direction is primitive, according to primitive Buddhism, impermanence. Okay? That direction is very important because which makes you tortoise. For instance, okay? Why don't you imagine this example? If you are thrown away over the board, right in the middle of the ocean, okay? Nothing there. What do? Completely no, you cannot see the other shore, no boat around, nothing there. You want to die? You don't want to die. But death is pretty close, but you don't believe in death. And you want to sleep, take a nap there, of course you cannot do it. So you just move and swim. At that time, can't you see there's a certain guarantee to survive? No guarantee. It's a complete nothing. And then nevertheless, in this realm of nothing, what should you do? You want to live or you don't want to live? Complete beyond this speculation. You just move. That is a swim. Total. That is step by step. Do you understand? That is our direction. So it's vast. Nevertheless, practically it's right now. Target is right now. Because nothing. You just swim. But direction is vast. Direction is, you don't know. Where is the direction? But you can know, yes, the other shore. But it's vast. But you target, you aim for moment to moment is right now, right here. So swim. This is a total, okay? And then you can get the people to help. It's real help, right? That is called vow. We say vow. I vow to save all sentient beings. Save all sentient beings means exactly to save all sentient beings to walk. Anyway, to cross over the ocean hand in hand, no matter what situation, just like a tortoise. Then you can get, people can get into your life to help. Because it's no comparison, no stress, and free freedom. Your nose is, your intellectual sense is always coming up, flashing light. Are you all right? Or I can survive, or I'm prison die, always thinking. But beyond that thinking, all you have to do is just swim from moment to moment. Okay? That is real situation of human life. so-called life.
All yesterday you did.
Yeah,
I took my special ancient remedy last night at work.
What was it?
It's gone.
Maybe that's not completely.
And fruit and fresh ginger
He
juice
doesn't want anybody that has too
and
Where's that?
Yeah, I
Smart.
guess so. And I'm not like do giver. The Dharma in very profound analysis is rarely encountered even among 100,000 million cultures. We now can see it, listen to it, remember and accept it. They completely realize true meaning of the Dharma.
Tonight, as much as possible, I would like to have more time to discuss with you because you have lots of questions about Buddhism, about the human world, about your life, things so. But before that, I would like to say a few things I want you to remember. In order to take care of your life. In Buddhism, briefly speaking, universe has its own principle. Briefly, there are two principles. One is, let me use first the technical term, impermanence. Okay? I will explain later. Second, causation, I mentioned yesterday. So those two principles are entirely a contradictory state of universe. But no one escaped to this. No one escaped this principle. So you have to figure out a way how to live right in the middle of unity of these two principles, all right? That's why it's not so simple. It's not so simple. It's very complicated. Using your brain, all right? If you don't use your brain, you become blind. That you become crazy, right? So you have to use your brain, consciousness, your physical body, physical mental conditions. Anyway, you have to use. On the other hand, anyway, you cannot. There is a world is constantly going beyond the functioning of your knowledge. Anyway, so this is really universe. universal situation open to everyone. Not only human beings, but trees, birds, everything. Whatever you want to find the solution of the human problem or your problem, anyway, you have to think solution on the basis of these two principles, all right? That's not so, it's a really big question, koan for you in your whole life. Impermanence is that which you cannot put any fixed conscious value on everything. Right? This is your basic nature of your life. This is a very basic principle of your life, whoever. Okay? That is exactly so. You cannot put the fixed, any fixed the conscious value you have had, usually, on everything, physically, mentally, or social situation, human problem, whatever it is. Good or bad, right or wrong, morality, ethical, you cannot do it. Anyway, you should completely hold up. You must surrender. This is universalism, all right? Yesterday, that's why I said tortoise and hare, story of tortoise and the hare. Everyone, first of all, first attitude toward human life, you should stand up in your own life without putting any label on you. I am good, I am bad, or I have a great capability, or I don't have any capability. Anyway, forget it. You have to stand up anyway strictly in the realm of, right in the middle of that universal principle first. That is a very basic attitude. You have to take one step forward, all right? But human life is very complicated. That's why you always present right in the middle of complication. Okay? So sometimes you don't have any space to think of it. So you have to do it. But every day, on every basis, please tell yourself, I am, anyway, greatness of my being. Right? Greatness of being. This is your nature. Technician, if you want to be technician, if you want to be writer, if you want to be artist, okay? If you want to be anyone, whatever, first, forget your judgment on your capability, your personality, forget it, okay? If you really want to be writer, artist, first, start to do it, start to do. Start to write, start to paint, start to read, start to study, all right? First, forgetting that your label, all right? This is most important. Second principle is your life is constantly on the basis of causation. All right? So that is, if you do something, very naturally, you will have a result. Okay? So you cannot ignore. So basically, as a first principle, according to the first principle, everyone can do anything that you like. Okay? So people misunderstand Buddhist teaching because always we mention you are Buddha, you are greatness, great beings. So if I say so, well, I can do anything. But it's not so simple like that. Okay? But that is a first step. But secondly, if you don't stand up straight in your life on the basis of first principle, you cannot do next moment. Okay? You cannot take a second step. Do you understand? You have to take one step first, and then second, third, fourth. It's going. For this, anyway, you shouldn't forget causation, effect, and teaching of causation, cause and the effect. If you do something, very naturally, you can do something. You can get something. But yesterday I mentioned, according to the first principle, all you have to do is start to move and just to do it. Just practice, all right? Secondly, you have second this according to second principle, you have to constantly make effort, forgetting your label, but you cannot forget causation. So you have to do it. You have to keep your eyes open, what's going on, who you are, what you want to do. Okay? At that time, you have to. You can see many beings around, physically and mentally. Mental situation occurs in complicated ways. Okay? If you take one step, or between the time you take one step, or and time you will take one step. You know, there are many psychological, mental situations happens, and then most of the people are confused, and then they forget to take one step. All right, that's very common. That's why people become panicked very easily. So, anyway, we have to realize what's going on around you. Okay. And then, if you look at the many beings around you, very naturally you can start to compare with somebody, with your capability. You compare your capability with others. Okay, so very naturally stress. You can create stresses and conflictions and comparisons. Very naturally, sometimes you create the inferior complex, sometimes superiority. So either way, both of them are really human problems. In fact, not only the inferior complex, opposite is also your human problem, because you create arrogance. If you create arrogance very naturally, you cannot take care of your life smoothly anyway. Okay? So first you should anyway make every possible effort, like a tortoise, forgetting your capability, the conscious value, okay, what you have had usually. Secondly, anyway, you should create quality of your effort, right? Quality of your effort. That is, don't compare. Don't compare too much. Don't conflict too much, all right? Anyway, looking at yourself, thinking of yourself, and watching carefully situation, people's, and then how can you take second step, third step with people, all right? With all sentient beings. Even though you don't compare, you don't conflict, that doesn't mean you should ignore the people, no. Very natural people exist around you, all right? So you should anyway do something with the people, with all sentient beings, all right? That's why it's very difficult. But basically, you should do this. You shouldn't forget this one. Right? This is a Buddhist teaching, anyway, all right? Buddhist teaching is human life, teaching of life. So even though you don't believe, You don't understand the technical terms, so-called Buddha, bodhisattva, that's all right. That's all right. Anyway, take care of your life on the basis of these two principles. Right? Because this is a lesson of universal life, open to everyone. All right. The other things. Oh, is that all right so far? One more thing. Maybe if you read Buddhism a little bit, you might be confused by the term Buddha, Bodhisattva. You don't understand the Buddha and the Bodhisattva. Even a priest don't understand. So let me say this as simple as I can, all right? Buddha is a person who awakens himself and others to the truth and cross over the river of the human life hand in hand. This is a Buddha, right? Buddha means, in the Buddhism, the Buddha is used very often. Everyone is Buddha. Okay? That means you have originally your nature, original nature is already Buddha. Means you are a person who awakens yourself and others, okay, to the truth and be able to cross over anyway the river of human life in hand. This is your nature. You don't believe that, but your nature is very vast. If you do that, if you practice according to these two principles of universal life, anyway, you can realize this nature. Okay? And then if you realize this nature, it is called faith. We say faith, belief. But you don't understand that Buddha, your original nature. That's why Buddha says original nature is Buddha. Okay? Means you are already great person who can awaken yourself and others to the truth and be able to walk step by step in hand with all sentient beings. That is your nature. That's why we say, please help. That's why you say, help somebody. All right? That's why you want to help somebody. Don't you think so? That is a Buddha. So, very naturally, originally, you are Buddha. All right? You are Buddha. So if you, anyway, accept this one very deeply, that is called faith. Faith, all right? And bodhisattva is when this person works in the human world, that Buddha becomes, that Buddha appears as a bodhisattva, okay? As a bodhisattva, as a human being, okay? Do you understand? Buddha appears in the human world as a human. That human is really different from human idea of human you have thought. This is called Buddha, bodhisattva. All right? Do you understand? Bodhisattva means, bodhi means enlightened. Sattva means being. So enlightened being. So if you anyway accept, trust you, okay? If you accept or believe instead of belief or whatever, anyway, trust. If you trust in you, completely like this, okay? And then you can make your life alive in the human world, helping somebody. So that time you become human as a human. That human is called bodhisattva. Okay? Because he or she is not egoistic. Pretty open. That is called bodhisattva. So, if you read the sutra, always appears bodhisattvas in the sutra. Okay? Buddha always behind. Buddha doesn't appear so much. For instance, Prajnaparamita Sutta, if you read Prajnaparamita Sutta, first of all, Avalokiteshvara appears, comes first. So Bodhisattva always in front, but Buddha is always in the back, supporting Bodhisattva. That is a faith, the spiritual security, all right? That is Buddha. We say Buddha. Now how can you realize the Buddha? That's why Buddha should be realized according to, by the practice on the basis of two principles, okay? Of the universal life I mentioned. You understand? So, in Diamond Sutra, Prajnaparamita Sutra, always Bodhisattva appears in the front, and Buddha is always supporting those Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattva questions lots, and then the Buddha tells them, sometimes answer, sometimes supporting, but sometimes Buddha is not host in the story, always behind. The host is Bodhisattva. Means host is who? You. Not divinity. Divinity is quiet, silent, supporting you. That is a silence. That is a Buddha. In terms of Christianity, you say God. Okay? God is not something you should always bring up in the front. No. You should bring up you as a bodhisattva. And then simultaneously there is a God, a Buddha, and there. That is spiritual security, we say, all right? Or faith. If you want to use that term, you don't like a faith, That's why I use spiritual security. So, very naturally, in the Buddhism, always Buddha is behind. Behind is not the withdrawal from the human world, no. In the broad sense, in the broad perspective, Buddha always open and watch over you, help. Who is Buddha? You are Buddha, each of you Buddha. How can I find the Buddha? Anyway, walk. Anyway, make your life alive as a human, helping all sentient beings. At that time, that human becomes bodhisattva, so-called enlightened being, right? Even though you stumble over by mistake, right in the middle of mistake, you can really stand up again, spring back again, and you really want the walk hand in hand with all sentient beings, because through the mistake you can really understand how weak human beings are, how strong human beings are. And then simultaneously you can really understand how weak other people are, because other people are exactly the same as you. So that's a very natural, from the bottom of your heart, you want to do something with the people. You want to share your life. Okay? Whatever reason you have, people, even though no matter whatever reason, whatever criticism comes to you, anyway, you want to do. That aspiration is called ba. Right? Ba. Just like a spring water coming out, gushing out from the ground. If you touch the water veins, I told you yesterday, okay? Simultaneously water coming up. Nobody stop it. Nobody stop it. You should use it anyway. because water coming up. Don't waste it. So that is called, whatever people say, tell you, you are crazy or whatever, anyway, you want to do it. That is called vow. Okay? And then we say, I vow to save all sentient beings like this. Very natural, it's coming out. Right? That is what I want to tell you today. Okay? Do you have a question? Any question is fine. Maybe you have lots of questions from articles I mentioned in the newspaper. Did you read newspaper? Maybe you have a question about that. Well, or whatever. That's fine. Before that, well, do you have a question about what I said tonight? First, let's give me the questions in relation with what I said tonight.
I was trying to make sense of what you were saying in terms of perhaps looking at it in terms of its opposite. Like if you say that people are all Buddha, is that in some sense like the opposite of the notion of original sin in Western philosophy, that people come in confused in a mess, or what is the opposite of that idea, and what is the opposite of that idea of causality? Or
I am talking about not the human being in terms of particular ideas, so-called Buddhism or Christianity, no. I'm talking about human, okay? Taking off your cultural background and then look at the human being as a being anyway. And then if you look at yourself like this, very naturally you can see. Because if you make every possible effort to take care of your life, very naturally something coming up constantly, just like a water. You don't believe it, but it's really do it, coming up. And if you see this kind of energy coming up, very naturally people help you. It's very natural. That is called temporary. In terms of Buddhism, we say this is Buddha. All right? We just use a technical term in terms of a certain teaching. But if you don't know Buddhism, even though you use the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas, you don't understand it.
So that's why I wanted to put it in terms of things that I did understand rather than new words.
Yeah. Forget it anyway. First of all, you should look at yourself as a being, all right? That's very important for you. Hi.
Somehow along the way I learned to be a Buddha, I have to detach myself. That according to your teaching will be, remember I am a being, I be a Buddha, and I be some kind of what? Bodhisattva or something like
Bodhisattva.
that.
Mm-hmm. Bodhisattva.
And we are in turn explain one thing with another turn, of which haven't defined it in the first place. And then come back to the question again, what is the Buddha?
Oh, well, don't be confused by the term of Buddha, okay?
No, I want to detach myself.
Uh-huh.
I detach myself to what? So I'm thinking about
to you detach yourself, your body and mind, okay?
That's right.
Sure.
But there's ideas in there. Say, I'm a human being.
Sure, human being.
But that is not a detachment. Actually, I attach myself to an idea. I am a human being.
Sure.
So it's all around then.
According to human being, all right? Human being is already based on the rhythm of causation, cause and effect. That's why you already see you and others. Okay, that is dualism. Dualism, in terms of dualistic sense, you already look at you. That is called human being, we say, all right? My existence. But basically, important point is you cannot deal yourself separately from others. Okay? Dualism is always separated. Okay? Do you understand that one?
I understand that.
So separate, always, you cannot deal with yourself separate from others.
Once I have I in mind, I'm already separated from the rest of the world.
Sure. That's why we have to practice how can I take care of ourselves without separation. Okay? This is our practice. That's why we have to see human world in the universal perspective once more again. In other words, in the universal perspective, we have to look at the dualistic world. We have to look at the human world based on dualistic sense, all right? We are already there. That's why dualistic, we have to look at the dualism once more again with careful consideration and how to live in peace, in harmony, without dualism. Okay? In other words, without dualism means how to live with the people very closely, become one, communicating oneness. Okay? That is called, anyway, impermanence or greatness of beings. Buddha, we say so, all right? Is that all right? I don't mean you should ignore human beings in the dualistic world. We are already there. But it is not all you have to think, you have to depend on. Still, world is broad. That's why we have to teach, we have to tell, world is not small, so-called dualism. Little bit bigger than dualism, all right? But unfortunately or fortunately, we live right in the middle of dualism. You cannot get out from this, everyone.
Well, in a way, like a school of fish. We're high among the school of fish.
Huh? I don't understand. What?
A fish?
Fish.
Yeah, salmon. They come in the school. There's 1,000 of fish. And one fish, particular fish, high in that school of fish. Okay?
Just a group of fish, they all go together. It's called a school.
Oh, group of...
When they're a group,
Group.
they call this a school.
That's what he says we are.
So one group. Okay, sure.
So I'm living among that group. Okay? To the predator.
You live in the group.
Yeah.
Sure.
To the predator, that means I'm hiding in the fish. I'm vanished. I'm not a particular target for the predator.
Predator.
One fish eats another fish.
Sure.
Predator, one animal eats another animal.
One preys on the other.
他の魚はその魚の中に食べます。
Yes, please. I'm sorry. Please continue.
In that case, I am vanished in that school of fish. I'm no longer a one fish.
Well, still I have to make clear your questions. You mean that you are one of the fish in the group?
That's right.
And then at that time you are a fish which might be eaten by big fish.
That's right.
That is, so what do you want to say about this? That is dualism? You are...
I think myself as a one fish.
Yes.
That's a dualism. I separate from the rest of them.
Sure, that's true. That is...
If I look at myself as a school of fish, I'm in the unity with the fish. I'm vanished according to the predator fish.
Yes.
I'm no longer there.
Yes.
But the idea as a whole school of fish.
Intellectually, you still are thinking always the intellectual sense, but if you think your life intellectually, human being more or less has to belong to a group, okay? Society, family, and biological circles, and economical circle, and sometimes the Buddhist circle, and many groups there. And finally, sometimes nothing. The people of a group of people who don't do anything, just chatting every day. This is also group. Okay? So more or less, everyone belongs to the group. So that time you say always, I am a member of society. Okay? That time you cannot escape from comparison and confliction. But actually we live. We live separate like this. Okay? That is very common through the six senses. We live already there. From completely beyond your control. That is called ignorance, we say. Okay? Simultaneously it's work. So if I sit down here and talk with you, already I and you. Okay? But this is dualism. This is a fact. How we are living. Okay? But if I think myself, if I think yourself like this as a member of society, always there is a confliction, fighting each other and etc. Do you understand? If you're the fish, if you're the bird, you know, if the dogs and the eagles eat the pigeons and the pigeon die, that's it. But a human being doesn't die without complaining anyway. So that because we have a consciousness, all right? So we have a consciousness means we know already where we are living. That is a duality, all right? But if you live in that way, it's very difficult to communicate with the human beings, with the natures, with warmness. Okay? Always there is a gap between, through which cold water blows in. It's very difficult, even though apparently you shake your hand, hey Karagiri, you are good guy, but behind that, if you live there, you stick out your tongue, you know. That's very common happens. This kind of thing happens always. So very naturally, it's very difficult to communicate with the deep sense. But that's why in order to, anyway, have a very warm, so-called compassion, okay? Very warm compassion. In order to have a compassion in the human world, we have to see dualism from a different angle, not only from a dualistic understanding we have, okay? This is very habitual way, or it's a common way, but from a different angle. Why don't you look at dualistic world once more again from a different angle? This is called universal, we say, all right? From the universal perspective, anyway, you and I, anyway, living in peace and harmony simultaneously, just like trees. I am sitting near trees, so standing there, simultaneously, before I look at that tree. Don't you think so?
I understand that. When we sitting here, this is a reality, there's a group of people sitting here. But if we try to explain this phenomena, we try to describe the things, we separate ourselves from this group.
Sure, that's
the same thing when we try to describe this universe, we separate ourselves from the universe.
Sure, that's right.
Basically the dualism.
That's right. But
so we cannot think of ourselves as an individual who belong to this universe. but think about ourselves, the self, universe.
Yeah, that's right.
So in this case, we talk about unity, but the dualism always coming in a pair, either good or bad, in the general sense, or fast or slow, because they always compare. That's a dualism.
Sure.
But I think in Zen, we are talking about unity. And unity, you cannot talk about it, because whenever you talk about it, there's a dualism.
Yes, yeah, I understand that, what you mentioned. Okay, let me say like this. Well, of course, if I explain, it's dualism, all right? But without words, we cannot communicate anyway in the dualistic world. Even though it is cold, it is warm way, or it is cold way. Anyway, without word, we cannot do it. So as best we can, we have to talk about something, talk about the universal life or dualistic world with a word, with a language, as best as you can, and then through this language, let's have a communication, one communication with our best, okay? So with the word, language can lead the people to not exactly the universe, center of the universe, the circle of the universe, okay, around the universe, all right? Anyway, we can do it. Without language, we cannot do it anyway, at all. Do you understand? So, word is very important for us. But in other words, word is still dualistic word. That's why, how can you get into the center of the universe? That is, every day, you have to do it, okay? For instance, universe is perfect peace, warmness. What does it mean? Directly, let's communicate, get into. Just do gasho. When you do gasho, just in peace. Gasho must be peaceful. You must be peaceful. Also, people look at you, it must be peaceful, gradually peaceful, all right? So this is practice. This is called practice.
But what this practice will lead to?
Huh?
What this practice will lead to?
Well, practice itself is universal. So that's, if you say practice, what the practice leads people to where? That is already interaction, all right? So practice itself must be universal peace, harmonious. This is the center of the universe. Through this, very naturally, people can communicate with really compassion. All right? But we don't do it. Always we see the puraka, we carry the puraka, so-called universe, and that is what you mentioned, so always through the words, always explain. But people don't know how to live right in the middle of peaceful world. You mentioned, you want to know. Don't you think so? That's what we're always fighting. So as best as we can, we have to explain, but the next moment, next step, we have to anyway forget, and then we have to figure out how to get into directly that universal peace. That is individual practice anyway. And then the practice itself is end, purpose. Because if you say bad practice, you can imagine something in front of you that is all dualism. So you never be peaceful, irritating, creating irritation, confliction, etc. So wherever you make, if you do gasho, this is peace, practice, and also peace. At that time, your life is very stable, stand up. And then you can look at yourself and the whole world. All right?
It seems that words, for me personally, are very frustrating in any language because they're as individualistic to each of us as our fingerprints. So they mean such different things. So at that time, I found what's helpful for me is to revert to what you were talking about yesterday about the five consciousnesses. And if you don't think and revert back to feeling, many times you'll come to the meaning of it without words.
Sure.
I do. I don't know about
So through the words, thinking is already words. Okay? Without words, you cannot think. So thinking is already verbalized. All right? Remember this one. You already, through the language, you think. Without language, you cannot think it. So that is our pattern, everyday pattern. All right? That's why word is very important for us.
So in a way, we search for the truth through thinking, and the thinking itself already destroyed the truth. How we can find the truth?
Why not destroy the intellect?
Because the truth has no language to describe it.
Yeah.
Before the word exists.
But anyway, you already use the word truth. It means you already know, in a sense, you know the truth. You know the existence
I know
of truth.
the truth, but the moment I speak the truth, I destroy the truth.
Not destroy the...
Or I distort the truth.
No. Not distort it. Your thinking, your talking is already going right in the middle of truth. Anyway. Nothing to interrupt. The truth is greatness of the being. No one can destroy. Anyway. Nothing.
Tonight, this evening, when I come here, I try to find this place. I'm looking for the orchid tree. I started from I think the other side coming here, all the way. I thought it was somewhere around the C Street. I passed it. Okay, I didn't find it. So I talked to my wife. I said, should I go back and look for it? Okay. And she says, nothing by chance, just let it happen. So we went to here, we found out this tree, we come in here. But what I'm trying to point out is the mere effort, I try to find it. That means going back, I will never find it.
Oh, well, I don't think so. Maybe you can find it.
So that's, if I go back to find it, I don't find it. That means my effort to find it, to try to find it, destroy the things I try to find. As the equivalent when I try to describe the truth. The language itself already destroyed the truth.
Well, we are already making effort. Our effort is always going right in the middle of truth. That's why no matter how long you try to make an effort to find it, sometimes you cannot find it. But it doesn't mean to destroy or interrupt the truth. That is just a truth coming up, different faiths. So-called, I couldn't find it. That's it. truth coming up, I find it. That's it. That is a dualism. So dualism and truth is one anyway. All right. That's why we have to make every possible effort from the beginning to end. Anyway, do it. Open your eyes and watching carefully. What should I do? And then we try to make every possible effort. And then sometimes you can find, I cannot find it. This is the truth coming up at that phase. And the next moment, I can find it. That truth appears as just like that.
Are you saying
that case, the truth actually changed the meaning. One is found and one is not found. The truth itself is no longer meaningful because it's not unique.
No. I don't mean that. No. Truth is, you already think the truth is something conceptualized, but the truth is really dynamic energy to support your life, wherever you may go, all right? This is a truth, kind of energy, very basic energy. If you make a mistake, through the mistake you can learn what human life is. You can go deep through the mistake. That's why you have to stand up right in the middle of mistake. Okay? That's why people try to spring back. If truth doesn't say anything, well, you just stumble over in the mistake, and then you don't want to get up. All right? Well, whatever you say anyway, we want to do. Even though you are smart, even though you are not smart, anyway, if you make a mistake, next moment, in the realm of mistake, you want to spring back again. Because this is the truth. All right? Okay, may I ask somebody? All right.
If we all have Buddha nature, how do we use it?
Yeah, keep it warm in your heart.
Especially in Alaska.
Until it's become hot. All right? So please. Even though term is stick to your, the brain, please keep it. All right? Keep it warm. Hi, please.
Do we all have the bodhisattva natures?
Yes, everyone, anyway, bodhisattva. Everyone bodhisattva. Yeah.
Are infants closer to Buddha nature than adults?
Well, I don't think so. Children and adults are same, bodhisattva.
Is it the thinking mind that leads us from Buddha nature?
Well, in a different way, the children express, represent, manifest themselves, you know, in a different way from adult. Because adults are very, what would you say, adult consciousness, very complicated. Because children are very simple, because they don't have a social life, and they don't have lots of problems, and human life related with somebody else, and always they think of very simple ways. I would like to do this. Okay, let's go. That's it. The human being, adult is a little bit, I want to do that. Yes, let's go. But wait a minute. Do you think so? This is adult. So it's very complicated. Right? Or fighting after your wife hit you and husband hit you, and then that's all, I am Buddha, you're Buddha, thanks. Next moment, story is not over. Hey, come on, you hit me. Someday I want to revenge you. This is adult consciousness, because consciousness works very simply, basically 5 consciousness. But on the other hand, this consciousness connected with the memory, right? Your memory. Memory, lots of memory there. Right? And then it's connected and works. And also, when the consciousness works, it works with circumstances. That's why it's more complicated. Right?
I heard you spoke about egolessness on the 2 days on Saturday and Sunday, and I was just wondering if you could give a little encapsulated version of your lecture on egolessness.
Okay, I don't want to talk logically, but I want to say simply what the practice of egolessness, all right? You know the fruit tree. If you want to take care of a fruit tree as a person who takes care of a fruit tree, what would you call? Gardener. Let's see, gardener. You know pretty well every year you have to trim branches in order to get nice fruits next year. All right? So when you trim, how you trim. So first you have to trim branches boldly, without craving to reserve. All right? This is first point. Secondly, you have to trim during the winter time. All sentient beings, when all sentient beings are hibernating, sleeping. That is the winter time. Do you understand? So winter time, everything is, particularly birds, is hibernating. So all sentient beings are hibernating. That is a winter time. Means that nobody knows. Pretty quiet. Not showy. Right? So first one, practice of egolessness is trim of branches boldly without reserving, so to say, without craving to, having a craving to the reserve, all right? That means your mental affliction I told you yesterday, all right? Mental affliction, if you try to reserve your branches, okay, very naturally you create anyway, mental affliction to around one event, okay, psychological event, or the event means, for instance, someone hit me, all right? And then I don't think it's necessary I say thank you, okay? I don't say it's necessary, hey, I am not necessary to fight with you. But anyway, as much as possible, I should trim my branches, so-called the mental affliction. So, if it is necessary to discuss with you or to communicate more, why looking at the cause of fighting, okay? We have to talk about it, but discussion is going endlessly. So you should find when you should stop it. As soon as possible, you should stop it. That is, anyway, trimming. In every situation, you have to practice this, trim. What you have to trim, okay? And when you have to trim, boldly you have to trim. So for instance, sitting here, I want to sit. This is the first reason, that's why I am sitting here. But if I find the pain, I don't want to sit down here, very naturally. But this is, if I think I don't want, finally I forget first motivation, I want to sit down. So very naturally, this is my turmoil. Do you understand? So as best as you can, I have to trim my branches, so-called lots of mental affliction coming up, trim it. So pain, that's all right, not all right, but let's sit down with the pain anyway. And then if you cannot stand up there, why don't you move a little bit your body, to the right, to the left, and then see what will happen. Something like this. So very naturally you can trim it. Okay? And that practice of trimming the branch is nobody knows. Nobody knows how much you trim it. Do you understand? I'm sitting here. Nobody gave me the applause, Nobody did. Nobody. So I just sit down here. Don't you think so? And then the people say, hey, Karaki, how many years do you sit? I sit 30 years. Well, you don't have a pain, don't you? Well, it's completely the opposite. I have lots of pain anyway. Still I have pain now. But anyway, I have to sit down here, I have to talk anyway. So that's trimming what nobody knows. But this practice is very great. And then you can get, what would you say, strength. Logan then says, strength grows within the strength. Do you understand this one? That means, please, trim the branches boldly, particularly during the winter time, all right? Nobody knows. That is very quiet. That's what Buddhist practice is, very quiet. For instance, Zazen is quiet, so-called shikan. No fascinations, no fun, no fun. So you feel immediately boring, ridiculous. Well, you have to continue anyway, sit down and trim the branches. All right? This is called egolessness. So remember this story, branch, cutting in order to get nice fruit next year, all right? What you have to do?
One of them has already developed its first white feathers. It's old enough to wander a few yards away from the nest. The unusual warmth soon brings with it a plague of buzzing mosquitoes. The chick looks very stressed by the mosquitoes, yet it will survive the hordes of insects of the brief Arctic summer. Soon, the bitter cold will return and the insects will be gone.
Ego sense is really attachment, he mentions attachment to your physical body and mental situation, which is coming up from moment to moment in every circumstances. Okay? You understand your feeling, your perception, your consciousness of working in many ways. So, in every aspect of your conscious function, there is anyway attachment. That's why if I feel pain, immediately I attach to this. And then just attachment to the pain is a simple as a first step. The second step, a little bit complicated. Third step, more and more. Then it is called mental affliction. So finally, you don't want to do this because you become complete panic by what? This pain. But pain is appear, disappear.
So you just observe it and let it go?
Oh, I think so. But I don't mean you should commit suicide with the pain, all right? You understand? Don't commit suicide with the pain. Oh, you never commit suicide with the pain. That's all right. But if I say so, people misunderstand what I mean, because that is sadism or what would you call it? Masochism. Don't misunderstand in that way.
As I understand the teaching, we must free ourselves from karma, all karma, and that is generated by any action that has volitional will or desire or a goal behind it. How can we perform an action without having a goal or a will behind it to create no karma from our action?
No karma, creating no karma, then more or less we create karma anyway. Karma means...
is that from cause and effect then?
Sure. Action, human action has its own purpose. If human action has a purpose, very naturally there is a cause and effect. Right? Do you understand?
But if we're one with that purpose, then we have no karma because we're not creating anything on our own. We're just going along with the purpose.
So that's why karma, no karma doesn't mean to destroy the karma or no karma. It doesn't mean no karma because you act always, every day. So more or less we create new karma, karmic life, your own karmic life anyway. That's where you always create vitality, don't you think so? If you don't create karma, your life is really boring. So even though Zazen, I say always sit down, please, just sit down. Still you create the karma, your karma. Hey, I see something wonderful. Like this. Because this is completely beyond the speculation. Your action gives you a certain, certain karmic life. Anyway. So, in a sense, we live there. That's why the important point is we shouldn't be completely carried away by this karmic, okay, based on ego sense. Right? So best as we can, we try to deal with the karmic life, okay, for sake of working hand in hand with people, all sentient beings. At that time, you can handle your karmic life in a broad scale.
We should control our karma instead of it.
Yeah, in a sense, you have to control anyway. Control means doesn't mean control means be intimate. Be intimate with the karma. Don't see always at the distance. You always see, if you see the karma or whatever at the distance, you always hate it. And the discrimination coming up. So whatever happens, anyway, if you want to create a little bit of karmic life anyway, you try to intimate with the karmic life. And if you are intimate with the karmic life, very naturally you have to think, how can I deal with this? Okay? So very naturally compassion coming up. So intimacy is very important. Right?
Being involved.
Yeah, involved, but don't carry away. Okay? Involved, but how much you should involve, this is also important. That's why Zazen, you should open the eyes just slightly, half, not wide, not closed. If you open your eyes wide, in the Zen, your mind is completely scattered. But on the other hand, if you close the eyes, you feel good because you shut yourself off from the world. But same world is going inside of your head. So that is visualization. So your visualization is yours. So you don't know how much you're involved in your visualization because you feel fun. Pretty good. So endlessly going. So same thing else. Finally you feel good, finally you want to sleep. Okay? So this is just like sitting in a wonderful bathtub. You feel good and then you fall to sleep. That is a closing eyes. Okay? That is not so good because you shut off yourself from the world. That's not good. Still, you have the same problem. So, but don't be involved in too much. That is scatters. So you don't know what to do finally. So, how much? This is very important for us. I don't know how much. This is half, right? for this, anyway, we have to, that's why we have to understand it deeply through the words, through the philosophy, through the psychology, from the many angles, understand anyway. And then next, you have to get into directly the universe. That is a practice, all right? Because we have a head, big head. Every day our head is just like a balloon, every day. Huge balloon. But everyone trusts, everyone depends on this on the head. But unfortunately, everything is changing. So balloon, sooner or later, will be pop up. Then, whew, that hurts. It really hurts. So you should know how big your head is, balloon. So you should take care of it. Thank you for your patience. If you have another question.
What is the place of humor?
Humor.
Or laughter?
Humor, real humor and real laughter comes up from the limits of phenomena and limits of human knowledge. For instance, when you come to a certain situation reaching to the limits of phenomena, limits of knowledge, okay? Knowledge is usually understood as something you can depend on, rely on. That is our knowledge, right? But if you come to if you touch something deeply, reaching to the limit of knowledge, nothing to depend on, all right? Knowledge gone, just like a balloon, pop, pop, So you realize what the knowledge is. He mentions that in the language like this. But anyway, if you comes to a certain situation reaching to a limits of suffering, limits of emotion, limits of scream and joy, at that time can be great laughter. For instance, this is not exactly great laughter, but the universal Miss Universe, I always look at that TV, beautiful women, Miss Universe. Last scene is, I love it, because last scene is Miss Universe elected, finally. It's very wonderful, happy, But they don't cry, they don't laugh it, they don't cry. So I think wonderful. What's the joy? What's the joy? What's the pleasure for her? So she cried. When she really wanted to express really enjoyment or joy, happy, that time she cried. Complete different. Or when you cry, when you have something sad and cry day after day, finally you can come to the bottom of the, cry. Then you can laugh it. It's very true. The crazy person sometimes, right at the border before people can mental disorder. All right, they suffer a lot. Finally, this in the border, she or he complete laugh. But on the other hand, really mental torture there. Okay? So, great laughter, great humor, it comes from a little bit, for me, a little bit, what would you say, border between craziness and wonderful world. Okay? Okay? Do you understand? So great laughter is a little bit, in a sense, crazy person. Because you don't understand it. So this border, just a piece of paper, just a little gap there, a crack there. This side is normal person. This side is beyond normal person. So-called saint, holy, but craziness. Okay? Whatever you say. And then if you come here, right in the middle, then you can do it. That's why people say you are crazy. Right? But yourself is wonderful. But watch out. You are always standing right in the middle of as a kind of hamburger. You are right in the middle. Whichever you want to go, you are a normal person or you are crazy. So you are still standing next to the craziness. All right? In that time, you can be laughter. So you watch out. Watch out. But you enjoy very much, because that is the limit of the normal situation. Exact limit. That limit is beginning of the universe. Then you can laugh. Right?
Did you think the girl that was crying, did you think there was something wrong with her, or what did you think?
No, I don't think so.
This universe?
No, it's no problem.
It was all right to you?
Sure, it's all right. It's very normal. Perfect joy. At that time you can cry.
Rusty, what will you tell people in Minneapolis about Alaska when you go back?
Give us a good report card.
Yes, I feel Alaska is very, very energetic. Yeah, pretty good. And I feel lots of a strong reaction from Alaska. Just like California. Do you know California? A little bit different situation, but California is just like this.
Very free of thought.
Yeah, thought, yes. But in Minneapolis is, you know, pretty well. Thank you very much. Thank you.